Let's do a little mic check. Works well? Perfect. Thank you so much, Brett. Thank you for all of you for coming today. I flew back from Stockholm yesterday. I've been in Sweden for the last couple of days, and I feel the last week has just been absolutely insane for all things Anthropic. Let's actually do a little show of hands if you have heard of Anthropic before. And then keep them up if you knew of us 2 weeks ago, before our whole Department of War debacle. Okay, so a big chunk. That's great. I'm going to chat a little bit about our products, the trends that we're seeing, and what we're sort of building towards as a company. Some of this is going to be, talking through some of the products that we have. We recently launched Cowork, so that might be repetition for some of you who might already be power users of it. But a quick little intro about myself. I joined Anthropic a year ago. We're only a couple hundred, now we're a couple thousand, so we've grown like crazy. I lead up our applied AI engineering team here in London. There's 10 of us, there's 25 of us in total in the applied AI team, but the engineers do all things product development and sort of building on our API and even our agent SDK. So when it comes to building on Anthropic, that's where we come in and try to sort of give our opinionated take on how you do so the Claude way. But just taking a little step back, in the beginning of the year, our big bet was we wanted to just sort of both rebrand and redefine our whole chat interface that we built over the last couple of years. And our bet was many people using AI, in particular Claude, for sort of asking questions, but more and more will sort of delegate knowledge work to Claude. And Claude Chat, or our Claude AI, our chatbot, was good at doing sort of multi-step tasks, but to a certain extent, never powerful enough to actually do something like Claude Code for a knowledge worker. And that's what we really want to redefine, and want to see if we could get the Claude Code harness, but for your sort of non-developer professional. So it's sort of a little trip down memory lane. It's only been 3 years since we launched our first product, which was Claude Chat. Pretty straightforward, your typical ChatGPT experience, but with Claude, of course. And the main takeaway here is that you sort of are very much asking questions, getting answers, but you're doing a lot of the work yourself. Now, a year ago, to the date actually, when I joined, we launched Claude Code. That was also a wild time to join. But Claude Code really enabled developers to do more of that task delegation to our product. And this went beyond just answering questions, but really trying to build software. And the beauty of this is that we saw in the beginning Claude Code being very good at doing single file edits, giving you maybe some code-based Q&A, but never really good enough to go through a whole code base, maybe in code-based modernization with this tool. But over the year, as the sort of raw LLM, Claude itself, has gotten better and better, this too has powered the Claude Code experience. And that's a lot of like our product DNA, is trying to build a scaffold as simple as possible, so that every time we launch a new model, it just simply increases the productivity or the sort of gain that you have from using our products. Now with our recent launch of Opus 4.6, we're seeing more of this, where you can just simply task Claude to run on hours on your behalf. And you'll see I'll chat soon about OpenClaw, which obviously is not affiliated with us, but it's powered by many of our models. And there you're seeing the same thing of these long-running agents really doing more than just typical question and answers that you saw from yesteryear. Now finally, we released Cowork end of Jan. This is the Claude Code experience for non-devs. It's trying to really go a little bit further in delegating tasks. It can be everything from doing financial analysis, helping with your taxes, general kind of sort of multi-step heavy work that you'd actually expect maybe an intern to do for you. Let's do a show of hands if you've actually played around with Cowork before. Okay, so quite a few, not too many. I'll give you a quick demo in a second as well of what it looks like. Very sort of traditional in the interface, but what's neat is that you really sort of delegate, can walk away for a couple minutes, come back, and then something will be done. If I sort of put it neatly, this whole sort of rebrand that we did, it's in this belief of our whole bet as a company is always oh, there we go. Thank you. worries. Yeah, so our whole rebrand was trying to basically get co-work to help the knowledge worker. And Claude AI chat wasn't that useful in the past. It's in many ways quite commoditized. ChatGPT does this already very well. It's fast and snappy, and you're not really getting too much intelligence out of Claude AI if you're asking questions like, I don't know, what's the weather like in San Francisco, or what games are on. And this is why we want to really sort of focus more on the knowledge worker, where co-work can really help you in being that intern you can delegate to. And we're seeing the biggest power users use co-work in multiple sessions. So you ask one co-work session to maybe help you with your taxes, another one help you with your slides. So all of this is actually built by co-work today. I haven't touched these slides, which is a little bit scary because I don't actually know what every slide is going to entail. But thus far, it's done a good job. If I go on to the next one, I think I have a little video here as well. I'll just start this one while I just start chatting. So this here is the interface. As you can see, it's nothing revolutionary when it comes to UX. It looks very similar to your traditional Claude AI or ChatGPT experience. But the difference is that you specify a work folder. And within that folder, you can prompt it, but in a very sort of thorough way where it can connect with MCP servers or connectors to really do more than just answer like a question, like an FAQ bot. And what's neat here is that when you specify the folder, co-work will actually spin up a sandbox in your environment. So many people are scared about, oh, well, what if it hallucinates and breaks something that's actually very proprietary or important? This will happen in a separate environment. So if Claude actually goes down a sort of doom loop and fails, nothing will actually affect your raw data. It's only going to do so once it's finalized the session, and you want that to make edits to let's say, your PowerPoint or your Excel sheet or a docx file. So it's quite neat from a security point of view where you shouldn't have to worry about issues like degrading data or in any ways ruining work you already created. And this sandboxing piece is a piece of the whole sort of Anthropic security perspective in general, where we try to add a lot of confinements where enterprise-grade agents are great, but you have to be really careful with making sure you don't do things you're not supposed to. And this leads me to another little, let me jump back here, another, like this. Another recent launch, OpenClaw, just a couple weeks ago as well. Let's do a little raise of hands again if you've played around with OpenClaw. Okay, fewer. So OpenClaw is basically open source project built by Peter Steinberger, now acqui-hired by OpenAI. And it's quite a simple concept. What he did is just simply had Claude Code running in a loop, connected to WhatsApp or Telegram or any sort of communication channel of your choice, where you could Slack or send a message, get a response. But the beauty of it was that it would be running in this container for hours, if not days on end, and in that way can definitely be more of this digital assistant that really knows you, gets to learn about your sort of ways and interests. But more importantly, OpenClaw is quite interesting in the sense of it was really sort of no boundaries to what the agent could do. So if you listen to one of OpenAI's most recent podcasts with him, he has this interesting story where Peter Steinberger sends a voice note to his OpenClaw assistant. And before he went on a trip to do this, and before setting up his OpenClaw sort of installation that, of course, he built himself, he had never actually given any instructions on how to deal with voice notes or any kind of multimodal data. And what's interesting is that Claude could get this sort of audio file, install a Python package to transcribe it, run some Python scripts to do so, and then understand what he sent and actually respond. And this sort of blew his mind because he had actually never given any instructions on how to deal with this data or deal with anything that he requested, and Claude could actually overcome this hurdle. And he tried again by sending a video. Claude can't understand video data. We only do images and text. And Claude wrote a little script to sample out images in this video to parse that and understand what's the video that he sent. I think this is kind of interesting because the whole OpenClaw paradigm is you sort of remove as much as possible from what actually confines an agent, and then again you lean into that sort of exponential where the models get smarter and smarter. They can overcome more on your behalf without you actually having to guide them in every step. And I think this sort of paradigm of no holds back, just let the agent cook in many ways, really found a lot of, the resolution is not the best in this one, so Claude can do a little bit better next time. But anyway, uh, the sort of ability to have an agent really be your digital assistant, I think, found a lot of fans online, in particular in the open source community. It's the fastest growing open source project of all time. And if you look at the architecture, this is a little bit of a difficult slide to parse in a second or two, but a takeaway here is that you have a communication channel on the left-hand side, some gateways as well, some agent loop where you have some memory, which basically breaks down short-term memory and long-term memory in markdown files. But most importantly, it also has this heartbeat. Won't go into detail. If you're interested in this, we can chat during the network mingle later. But the heartbeat basically makes sure that the agent really comes online every half hour and does this for hours or if not days on end. But the main takeaway from all this is that what OpenClaw showed us was you are the bottleneck. I think this is interesting with agents. By wanting to always add instructions, adding skilled MD files, adding these kind of like confined ways of how you expect something to be done, that's very much the sort of LLM paradigm of yesteryear. It's like the RAG approach, where this is exactly how it's supposed to be done in XYZ. Now, that's still valuable. We have domain experts in all kinds of fields that should always sort of be championing a certain way. But I think what OpenClaw shows is that by trying to also lean into removing some of the scaffolding, so removing all the permissions that Claude needs to usually ask, you can get so much more value out of it and becomes that digital assistant. I think this is an interesting sort of thought pattern to have in the back of your head, is that you want to sort of be prescriptive, but also not dominating when it comes to actually steering these agents. Because if you are, you're not going to lean into that exponential of Opus 5, Opus 5.5, Opus 6 coming out and being able to do more on your behalf. Now, I realize I've been babbling on for a little bit. I'm just going to quickly touch on 2 enterprise agents that we've helped build. Because all this is great with removing permissions and requirements, but for enterprises, that doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to do this anyway because security and compliance is key, and there's no questions about that. So 2 quick examples of how we've worked with both Spotify, and I'll quickly jump also to Novo Nordisk. They're basically building enterprise agents on Claude, where they're confining what it's supposed to do. So Spotify is working on building their sort of coding assistant, and is doing so in a way where it's very bespoke to their infrastructure. They have thousands and thousands of repos at Spotify. So key issue there is just information degradation. How do you make sure that the agents can actually understand which repo to make changes on when they're making changes across a whole host of different code bases in their sort of entire code base or repository. And Novo Nordisk, on the other hand, is working on basically improving their clinical study reports with Claude. And the nice thing here is that they're leaning into this quote-unquote exponential in the same way by having Claude be able to do more research in the studies that it can actually produce. So we'll always have a human in loop in both instances. The first one is Spotify actually migrating or confirming a PR. That's always done by a human. And secondly, approving a study is obviously done by professionals at Novo Nordisk. But the benefit here is that they're getting that sort of that knowledge gain of being able to improve the time to completion. So going from weeks to minutes in drafting these reports. Now, I'll finish off by saying this only works if you have proper auditing and if you have proper RBAC or role-based access control. I think from our end, learning from OpenClaw, also building CoWork, we want to build this into that suite as well. So the main takeaway here is that you can imagine you have an agent running on your behalf for many hours, but that agent should be sort of regulated in the way you are. So if you're a manager or an employee, you should have access to certain systems in the same way your agent is too. So if you look ahead, I think CoWork is going to go from running on minutes or sort of tens of minutes on your behalf to running on hours on your behalf as well, by being that digital assistant, but having those enterprise-grade security compliances at heart as well. If you have any questions about this as well, I'll be around later on, so all things CoWork, or also Department of War, please come ask me and we can chat about it. Thank you so much.